All right. Well, we're actually running down to the end, aren't we? We've got we're on episode 7 of season 3 of The Chosen, and there is a finale is episode 8. So we're drawing right into the end, and then we'll have to discuss what's going to happen because first The Chosen said that they were going to have a delay for the 4th season because of the writers' strike in Hollywood, but then they came out with an announcement said that their writers have decided they're going to continue. They're not going to strike. So looks like it may be coming in as when they said, which is not very long from now. So if you're just joining us, please hit the pause button and go watch episode 7 and then come back right here and we'll be waiting for you. Okay. All right, that was
that thing.
Being packed with stuff. So where do you want to start with that? What stood out to you? I have 2 pages of notes here. So any
Well, I still don't think I trust Gaius. I don't know what it is. He's doing all the right things. He's helping out, but I just don't trust him. He's still a Roman.
Yep.
So I wonder where that's going.
I think it may be because he not trusting anybody. He's in the middle of change. He's not there yet. And because he's in the middle, you think that the pressure one way or the other way could make him flop, whichever way he has to go. So he's not dependable yet.
I'm really rooting for him to turn around. If he doesn't, I'll be disappointed.
Yes, I completely agree.
I am too. I just don't trust him yet.
All right, we're going to see what happens. I think he's got a brave future in the.
Mom, you're still muted.
Oh, I think he's got a big future coming up.
Well, I took it off. It would be hard to go from what they have like 100 different gods or something down to just one for everything.
Yeah. Oh, well, how about looking in his house? Did you see the wall behind him when they first came in and Simon was standing there and Gaius went around and had a shot of him? Did you see the wall right behind him?
Didn't notice.
It was a mural of Poseidon on his water chariot and all the little mermaid things coming up and
Out of the
being
sea.
pulled by dolphins. And then remember when they turned around and his wife came in, it was looking over this way. And did you see the bust on the table behind him?
Yeah. Looked like an altar.
Yes, it was an altar, but you recognize who was on it?
I guess it was Caesar.
It was Caesar, right? Because Caesar is revered as a god. So he's got Caesar on a little altar with candles and little tchotchkes all around him. It was a nice bust. And that would indicate that that wasn't given to him. He bought that. So that showed just real any other Roman walked into his house. Not every Roman had a bust like that. It was if you all wanted to see it, it's a full head bust, like a life size. Any Roman that walked into his house would be very impressed with his devotion to Caesar. It was if he believed that 100%, then that was a real act of devotion. If he didn't, it was a wonderful political move to keep himself safe. Because even as if Pilate or anybody walked in, they would think twice that this man was really a devotee of Caesar. So,
You know what Caesar's full name was? The real Caesar? Gaius Julius Caesar.
was it really?
Really?
Angel Studio strikes again. The little hidden things. Set up just for whatever, and yeah, that's his full name.
Very neat.
Makes sense.
So what about this thing about his servant?
The son, you mean?
Son.
The half son.
Yeah,
It's his son, but it's his servant.
it's his son, but it's a servant.
Half son, I guess.
And he
He
had,
really, he got so soft and squishy when he was talking about it. It was surprising for him to be that let down his guard that much.
and what could we learn from that? Because remember that the Chosen is doing the same thing that the Gospels have done. They are, as Alan just pointed out with Gaius Caesar, they are working in little Easter eggs everywhere. You know what an Easter egg is? In the movies, Marvel does it a lot. In the movies, they will have a couple of characters come in, and behind them they'll have something that nobody will notice, but it'll be a little, they call it an Easter egg. It's a little symbol of the next movie that's coming, or it's an honorarium of somebody else in the movie. And once people started getting onto it, there was all these games to watch for the Easter eggs.
Oh,
And there's tons of them, and Marvel had a lot of fun doing that.
Lucas does that a lot too. If you look at Star Wars and Indiana Jones and compare them, you'll see a lot of one in the other movies.
That's it. So as we're learning, it looks like the Chosen's doing the same thing with Easter eggs. So there must be a lesson for us in this whole movement of Gaius. And I think it's because the same thing that Alan, you're saying, and Sharon, that you said, is that he's a preemie. He's in charge of all the battalions. He's like a colonel. He's the way up there. And he didn't get there by being a slouch. I mean, he is a hard, tough guy who has made it to the top and has an enormous amount of responsibility. But he's, what would you say, squishy? Was that the word you used? When you get him into a place where he is allowed to be who he is, he's just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of calling us to a place where, we dehumanize other people based on politics or nationality or color or ethnicity, and we make them into a caricature of a human being with the attributes of that label. We're hearing this happen a lot in politics right now between Democrats and Republicans. They are referring to each other with these big, bold, broad, really disgusting and infantile monikers, throwing us off, saying this is what they're like. So they've done what we did during World War II, and we dehumanized the Nazis, right? We made cartoons of them. We made cartoons of Hitler. We made them into caricatures so they'd be easy to kill, because you can kill a caricature. It's hard to kill a man. What happened in Japan was the reverse of that. We made Japan into caricatures, but when we got over there and we beat them and they surrendered, we realized they were just people, and our GIs started giving them chocolate and helped them out. And as I've said before, Japan's our greatest ally. Mm-hmm. And it's because after the war, we realized they're honorable, kind, generous people, and they did terrible, horrible things, and so did we, but they are not, as a people, a caricature. So I think that they're using Gaius to help us see that no matter who you are or what you are just who you are and what you are. You're more than the label or the moniker that you've been given by culture or by history or by lineage. He's just a father who, as he said, made a mistake and wishes he could go back and fix it, and he loves his son. So
he started out really pretty rotten, cold, cruel, and maybe this, if Jesus heals his son, that could do the trick.
Well, you notice that we're looking at Gaius being squishy, but remember how Simon started out talking to the Romans?
Yeah.
He's flip-flopped 180 degrees as well, because hanging out with Gaius, he's learned that Gaius is just a guy.
Yeah, they should hate each other, but now they're getting along, having beers together, whatever that was on time. Gaius is protecting him when he should have arrested him.
Yeah, that's huge.
All that.
That's really huge. He's protecting Jesus. Remember, he didn't move the camp or anything.
All right. He helped the campers. He helped the people.
Yep.
Well, he defended him to his wife too.
Yeah.
What did he say? They're people. What did he say?
Judaism is not contagious or something like that.
Yeah.
Judaism or something, whatever he said.
Jewishness, yeah.
Jewishness, it's not contagious.
He listened to the Sermon on the Mount. Remember, he was on a horse. He was like crowd control or something. And
Mhm.
he listened to the Sermon on the Mount,
Mhm.
and it had to affect him.
Yep. Yeah, he became very different after that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, let's see. Let's stick with Gaius for a minute. I found an interesting tidbit. Did you remember when Simon walked? It showed him he came in. The camera was looking this way down the street, and then Simon came in from the left, and he started walking down the street. He saw that woman up on the balcony, that Roman woman. Okay, so she's symbolically looking down at him, peon.
Yeah.
Well, right before that, when he came into the screen and he turned, there was a bunch of stuff scrolled on the wall. Did you
Yeah.
see all that writing on the wall? That's actually a real thing. They have found that and seen that and read about that in Roman literature. It was 1st century graffiti. And this is what it said. If only a similar
Did we lose him?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to read my own handwriting. I wrote it while we were watching it. If only a similar type of swindling would dupe you, innkeeper. You sell water and drink the undiluted wine yourself. Ooh. So that's 1st century graffiti. What it's saying is that the person is saying this is if only you would get swindled like you're swindling us.
Yeah.
You give us water and you drink the undiluted wine, because all of the wine that comes to any tavern is diluted with water, so it goes longer. And the historic note is that was probably written by a Jew. They would steal into the area at night and deface the property, because the wine and like that would come from the Romans. A lot of the supplies and like that. So another reason why they kept the Jews out of their quarter and made it illegal for them to be there, because they were up to no good if they were there. There was no reason for them to be there. I like the fact that the Chosen puts stuff like that in there, and they don't tell you what it is. They just leave it. And you have to look it up. You have to find out, or you're not going to know. Let's see. Oh, Simon, let's stay with him for a minute. He's gone now to James, right? He's gone to Gaius. He went to someone else, I think the last one. He's talked to Eden. But again, the one person that hasn't gone to is the only person that he should be. And Jesus. And James is telling him that, trying to say, and everything that he's saying in that last scene of implied, yeah, but we're special. James picked up on it. He said, we're followers of the Messiah. We're special. So everything should be perfect for us. And that was the Jewish perspective of what would happen when the Messiah came. The Messiah would come, protect the Jewish people, then put this big mystic bubble over the Holy Land, and then they would live in peace and prosperity and be happy, more like the Romans, in luxury and opulence, while the rest of the world went to hell. So he's got that same mentality stuck. It's stuck in him. I know I'm coming. You need to settle down. I know. Let's see. Oh, all right. Let's move to Thomas. And remember we saw those tassels in the last episode when Mary went upstairs to get the money.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, those are the tassels off the prayer shawl. And I was afraid that that someone had killed the people, and those were the trophies, that they'd saved those. And then we've got the backstory of the old man that gave Matthew the tassels. Just a quick identification for him. Do anybody recognize him?
The old man?
Yeah. He gave away his character when he said, "I'm ready to see my maker again." And Matthew, Matthew didn't say anything. He just right over his head. That
Hey, Lazarus?
that old man was the old shepherd
No, Lazarus isn't it?
in the prequel. The
Yeah.
They visited Jesus after he was born. He was a
right.
kid, 2-year-old kid. Whatever.
Oh,
He was the old shepherd he was the mean one. That was really mean to the cripple guy.
mm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's probably like 80 something or 90 in this, because back then he was in his probably 40s or 50s, and it's been 30 something more years. So he's got to be in his 80s somewhere, 80s or 90s. So he's an old man, long old man. So his change of life and change of attitude it shows that the just the one meeting of the knowledge of the coming of the child changed everything. His life was completely different. He's all about giving up and giving away and providing for others and for himself. Oh, and so we got the tassels. So you got the history of them, right? They came off of a prayer shawl from somebody who was a slave in Egypt and liberated in the first exile, then came back. So these are ancient. So they're a long time ago. So they have that significance to them. What are these tassels? They're called, I'm going to say this as tzitzi. It literally spelled T-Z-I, one word, tzitzi. And it is, as we said, it's the prayer tassel that goes on. Sorry, guys. Prayer tassel that goes on the bottom of the prayer shawl. Yes. And Numbers 15:38, it says, "Speak to the sons of Israel and tell them that they shall make for themselves tassels on the corner of their garments throughout their generations, and that they shall put these tassels on each corner with a cord of blue." And then again in, where is it? Deuteronomy, Luke, Matthew, Numbers. No, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, well, there's a second. Oh, here it is. You shall make yourself, this is Deuteronomy 22. You shall make yourself tassels on the four corners of your garment, which you will cover yourself, with which you will cover yourself. So this is the ancient command to make these tassels. Now, if you remember Jesus in Matthew, he said, he said the priests like to wear big phylacteries and long tassels on their prayer shawls and stand on the corner and deliver prayers loudly so that the people could see them, and have the best seats at the table at the banquets and be honored by everybody when they walked in. So that's a problem, because you saw the tassels, the tzitzi that Matthew had, and originally the sketches of the tzitzi that came out of Israel up until before the first century were just like his. They were knots, the 613 is the knots, and a couple beads, and then the little blue strings that were down were like 2 or 3 inches. Okay, so now recall Jesus saying with the how the rabbis like to put the long tassels on their tzitzi. Look at that.
okay.
That's why that picture is there. So
That's
up here,
what
you see this from here. Can you see the little hand on your screen? No. So
No.
look at the top of the picture, and you can see the beads at the very top.
Yeah.
And then all the rest of it that goes all the way down and out of the bottom of the picture is the tassel. So that is for sale right now. That is out of a catalog, Jewish catalog, for the sale of religious items. And that was one of many, not only pictures of people wearing the tzitzi, but pictures of tzitzi that are for sale for people who want to buy them. And they almost all have those long strings on them, which are again, it's the same thing that Jesus said, was bad. Not to have those long strings on their tzitzit. And here they're still doing it today.
Don't they represent the law in some way? Because
Yeah,
they were talking about the number of commandments in the law
Yeah.
when they were grabbing the tassels. I don't remember exactly.
And the obedience. I actually had a GIF. I think I closed it right before we got started. That has the it showed what they are. Let me see if I can find it. It showed what they are and what all it means, which was a great little picture. Let me see if I can get it up. Fringes of the tassel worn traditional ceremonial garment. Let's see, where's the picture? There's a couple of these references in the one we just saw. Speak to Israel, the garment, prayer shawl, special. Let's see, where's that picture? Okay, wait a minute. There's it. Yeah. Reminder of the commandments. The Jews search for a logical correlation between the talent and the commandments of God rewarded in treatings. Okay, this numerical value of the word zitzi or fringes is 600. Each of the fringes contain 8 threads and 5 knots, making a total of 613. The number corresponds to the 613 commandments contained in the Torah. It was also noted that making the fringes, one winds a long thread around the other threads 5 knots, 7, 8, 11, and 13 times respectively. The first 3 numbers equal 26, which is the numerical value of the tetragrammaton. The remaining number equals the numeric value of the word ihad, or one. The last word in the opening verse of the Shema, our God is one. The fringes of the talit, thus not only remind the Jews of the 613 divine commandments, but also underscore the central doctrine of Judaism that the Lord is one. There you go.
This reminds me of the rosary.
Yeah.
And my Episcopal one has 33 beads on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always all prayer beads from all societies and cultures have a significance in every detail of how they're made. Every detail. It always, because you're making them as a reminder of something else. So they're just a symbol. Like Mary said, they're just symbols. They're symbols of the faith that the man wanted you to have. And so that you come back to being a Jew.
Did they use them when they prayed the way, you do with a rosary?
Yep. They pick them up, they pull on them on my prayer shawl and hold them. And that was one of the people suggested that that's why they make the tassels so long, because the ones that are behind them, they want to pull them around in front of them so they can hold them. Okay. Yay. What else? Thomas and Rima. Oh, it's very sad so far. When you're thinking about that, it's really important to remember that Thomas had absolutely nothing to offer. Rima's father is being well within his rights to protect his family. The husband has got to provide everything for the family and the wife, and Thomas doesn't even have a house. I mean, for him to marry Rima would be like crazy talk. It'd be like what we saw happening at Haight-Ashbury in the 60s. People running off and hippies getting married, and they're free love, or they're just wandering around the world. Her father would be thinking the same thing about Thomas. So it really was a pie in the sky thing for Thomas to go and ask for her hand anyway. Really crazy.
Are they working? I keep wondering about this. Are the disciples actually, they're not working at jobs?
No.
So he is just a member of a group.
Yes. He had
a group.
He had a great job before. He was the guy, the organizer, the party organizer, and she was the one with the vineyard. And so he was making a good money. He was a good prospect for Rama, but he's not anymore. He's an unemployed wanderer, basically, is what his job is. So it's sad what's going on there, but unless the father gets enlightened to who Jesus is, there's not much hope for him.
Judas seemed to, he was very logical. He was explaining what's going on in Decapolis as a businessman.
Yes,
He
brilliant.
seemed to understand it on another level, maybe, or
Yes, the Decapolis. So what's important to remember is the Sea of Galilee is not big. When you think of a sea, you think of like vast, like a small ocean, right? The Sea of Galilee is like a giant lake. So standing on one side of the Sea of Galilee, you can see all the way around the lake. You can see everything around the Sea of Galilee. It's big, but it's not too big that you can't see across it. And remember, Jesus rode across it in one night and went to the Decapolis on the other side. So these regions of the Nabateans and the Syrophoenicians are all in the north, and then the east. And as you go up from Jerusalem, you kind of go, let's see, if this is the Microsoft, if this would be like the sea is right here where the Microsoft is, Jesus is over here, and they're going up and over, and there's the Nabateans are here, and the Syrophoenicians are here, and they're coming back down, and all this is the Decapolis over here. So what is the Decapolis? It is that melting pot where the Jews went when they ran away during the different persecutions and the different attacks on Israel. They all ran and took off so they wouldn't be killed, and they settled on the other side of the lake, or they were taken on the other side of the lake. In the case of Persia, the Persians that way. And then after they were allowed to go back, they didn't, because they had a house there, they had a home there, and they raised their kids there. But they're also living amongst the Gentiles, all different races of Gentiles. And some of those Gentiles don't like each other. Like as we saw right there in the, when Jesus came, it was the Gentiles who were reaching for their knives, not when they came upon the Jews, but when they came upon the other Gentiles. So it's a really volatile melting pot when you think that I'm on this side of the lake and I have an arch enemy who lives right there, and I can see right across the lake and know that if they got in boats, they could come right across here in the middle of the night and kill everybody, and we wouldn't even know it until they got here. So it's a real tense, unhappy place, and the effect of that wraps around to the Samaritans, which are on Jesus's side in the middle, but they're kind of part of this whole loop around the top of the Sea of Galilee. So obviously what Jesus went and did was, or what the disciples went and did was, they just kind of lit the fuse on the powder keg, where I loved it how he explained this, that the Gentiles who want more than what they've got consider themselves not only at one level being invited in, but at the other level, they're offended because they were invited last. So really brilliant, really brilliant. And then the Jews, like the way that Thomas explained it was perfect, absolutely perfect.
So, is it Decapolis? Is it like a series of villages, like 10 villages?
Yes.
The
Regions,
okay.
10 regions in the Decapolis.
10 regions, okay.
Yep.
So I was saying, if you break it down, Deca and Polis, Police, okay.
That's exactly what it is. Let's see.
One more thing, I was at the very end, as Simon is just going on and on about how Jesus failed him and how could you let this happen? And at the very end, he runs to Jesus to help him.
Oh, that was so cool. So do you remember when he came back from his little tryst into the Roman Quarter?
The Roman Quarter, yeah.
And Thomas came around the corner, and he said, and Mary said, if you run, you can catch him. And what did Peter say?
I'm not much of a runner.
Not much, yeah.
So
Full sprint, yeah.
What did he do at the end?
He ran.
He offered a full sprint to go help Jesus because he knows.
Yep, I thought that was very clever. The way
I just thought it was interesting how he worked that in, because for 10 minutes before that, he was going on about how he failed him. He didn't help, and this and that.
Yeah.
Then runs to him to help him because he knows that's what he's got to do.
We are such a
It's a very human thing.
petty creation. I don't want to offend the Lord, but our behavior is so petty. You know, when we're disappointed or angry, if something happens that offends us, we automatically think the worst of the people around us, automatically blame them in our head before we ever have a conversation with them. And this is what Peter's done. He's made Jesus, even though he says, I don't believe I know who he is, he's made him the scapegoat. He's made, I mean, it's so weird, isn't it? Jesus is the Messiah, and yet Peter is looking at him as if he's bad.
He's a villain.
He could have done this and he didn't, which makes him kind of maniacal.
He said, I know he's the one. There's no other. He's the one.
Right. But then he's saying, but he's
Referring to him as a villain.
yeah,
Almost.
a villain. He's a villain. So
Well, he knows he can fix everything, and he knows he can, and he can't understand.
yeah,
And I
well,
mean, that's human.
I think it's human, it's very selfish, because the same thing that Thomas or that James was saying, reminding him of all these things that Jesus had said. So it's not like Jesus had said to him, now that you're my followers, your world's going to be perfect and everybody's going to be healthy and you're going to live to be 500 years old. You know, he said the exact opposite. So Peter shouldn't be expecting anything special. And in his grief, he's projecting his anger on the other person, which is what we do all the time. And sometimes it can be really horrific when we find out that if we ever get to the point where we say something and then realize that the person that we are lashing out at and blamed in our head for the last 3 days is not at fault, then that's a lot of crow on one plate. So let's see, last little bit. Oh, I love that Jesus snuck in the wonderful phrase, those who have ears hear. You know, he said that when they were sitting around the table, he said, I don't really understand the parable of the wheat and the tares. And he just said, those who have ears hear. He was saying, you gotta stop thinking and listening to this like you've been doing. You have to think and listen to it in a new way. And that's the breadth of Scripture. And then this, I wanted to say the whole program started with a celebration. And that's the celebration of Purim, which is the commemoration of how God saved the Jews from genocide. They were going to kill the Jews, and they were saved. Remember, they were telling the story about Hyman, and they would go ooh and shake.
Yeah.
The kids would do it, and the adults would shake the thing. So it's a 2-day celebration, and they don't work; they just party. So that's what that was. And perfect peace, shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom is peaceful rest, and as Simon said, shalom, shalom is perfect peace or complete wholeness in the intention. So next time you leave somebody and you want them to have perfect peace, just say shalom, shalom. And if you know any Jewish people, say it to them. They'll perk right up. All right, that's all I've got. That's a whole page. Let's see, did I have anything? Nope. Anything else stand out for you guys? Any place else that caught your eye that I missed?
Rewatch it, but I can't think of anything right now.
I think
That's a lot.
There's so much going on.
that
Last
one
couple of episodes.
very packed. I think the two I think that we've the virus when he stubbed his toe and cut his foot open on the road. Did you notice what happened? I can't remember who was it. Was it James and John? No, yeah.
It was Philip and
Andrew.
Who was it? I don't remember.
Andrew?
Andrew, I think.
Okay, so Andrew busted his foot, and Philip went over and knelt down and was about to fix it, and he said, "Can you?" And he wouldn't. And then Philip went down and undid his sandal. You see that? Do you know why? Remember why? Remember Monday, Thursday, the foot washing ceremony.
Uh-huh.
In the Jewish custom, the Jewish. Now remember John the Baptist. John the Baptist said, "There is the Lamb of God whom I am not worthy to bow down and untie his sandals. And for us, that means, he's humble. But for them, that was huge. In every community, in the Jewish community, in the Roman community, the most menial, worthless slave, for Romans anyway, in the house, the slave with the least worth, the slave that would be the slave of the other slaves, was the one who would come to the door and attend the guests and take off their sandals. It has a huge symbolism for the Jews and the Romans. So when he smashed his foot and was bleeding, and it was Philip, I think, was Andrew that hit his foot? Philip knelt down. He was about to help him, but he wouldn't. He said, "Nope." So can you take your sandal off? Because he wasn't going to do it. He can't, because the symbolism that he is now the worthless slave of Andrew. So the symbolism of it is too big for him. He won't do it. He made Andrew take his own sandal off. So now, with that in mind, think about Maundy Thursday again, when Jesus got up and put a towel around his waist and knelt down to wash the disciples' feet. And Peter said, "No, you can't wash my feet, because that's insane. It's insane that the Messiah would wash my feet, because that is the most degrading thing that you can assign to any slave. And yet here he is doing it voluntarily." So all that was caught in that one little scene with just that one little phrase of him saying, he just went, "Can you?" That's all he had to say. And of course, Andrew undid his shoe, because he realized exactly what he was talking about. Lots and lots.
These writers are genius.
Yeah, so much going on. So much going on. All right, guys. I'm sorry about last week. I think we caught up great. I had to wait this long. I was really excited last week, so I'm sorry, but we're caught up. Next week is the grand finale. So we'll look forward to seeing how they pull all these stories together, especially since they just started this one, the Decapolis, and it's a biggie. So I'm anxious to see how it goes. All right, there we go.
All right.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful, peaceful night and a good sleep. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom,
Goodbye,
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
Everybody. Bye, Mom.
Bye.